do you think it's still worth starting print on demand in 2026?
A great question, yeah. I don't know the answer to that. I think it very much depends on who we're talking to. The question that matters is, is it worth it for you, for the person listening to this, who's, I assume, not started yet and is looking to get involved somehow. My sense is that if you're someone searching for a make money online, as in that's purely what you're after and you're kind of shopping the world for opportunities, then it's probably going to be a pretty difficult slog for the majority of people coming from that angle, because it's obviously much higher competition than it was 10 years ago. There's a lot more tools that make it faster, but there's also stuff that just increases the competition and things. And it's a much more, developed market. It's not like an early thing where people are still finding their feet. It's very kind of established. All of the major spaces and like markets within markets are kind of spoken for, if you like. But on the other hand, if you're someone who has taste and who has art abilities and who has design sensibilities, plus the ability maybe to spot certain markets and trends, and you have some kind of experience in that space, maybe, I don't know, you've run social media accounts that have done well, or you've created something that's gone viral or whatever. If that's who you are, and you've stumbled into print on demand and thought, oh, that, I might try this out, then I think definitely there's still loads of opportunity there. Because ultimately, like, print on demand means you can, create something and it can be made on demand and then delivered to someone within like a few days or whatever. Like, that's all we're talking about. And obviously we know about Merch by Amazon, all these different channels and ways of making money from print on demand. But actually, if you think about those basics, those basic fundamentals, those haven't changed. Nothing's changed about that. You as a creator, as an artist, as someone creating something new and putting it out there into the world, you can do that now probably easier than 10 years ago, thanks to all the tools. And if it's good, if you can get it in front of people, then they can buy it, and you're not out of pocket. It takes you some time and a little bit of effort, but as a business model, it's near perfect. So yeah, it's all. Is it worth it? The question is it worth it for you? Can you find your little pocket that makes it work for you? I came into print on demand around 2013 with Redbubble. I created some designs, and within a month, I made a sale. It was like 3 weeks or something after uploading like three or four designs. So I proved the concepts, straight away initially, within that month. Now, if you can't do something similar to that, or at least, get some data that says, hey, this is going to work for me, or whatever, then that's really the thing I would hang it on, is like, can you make it work? Can you find that thing that works for you? And there's lots of different, there's different ways to skin the print on demand cat, but if you can find something, and I do believe those opportunities are out there, but it's not like a turnkey solution for anyone. It's not like, oh, you're just going to, follow a few YouTube videos, whack up some designs and start making sales. It's not going to be an easy solution like that.
I like the realistic outlook, because I do think whilst it's still a good opportunity, obviously it's not as easy to get results as it was, back when you started, or maybe when Amazon Merch was completely new. Back then, you could see like a decent amount of money within the first month, maybe, or two. So it definitely takes some patience, and it's maybe not for the kind of person that's after, get rich quick, make money right now, or if you're desperate, if you've just lost your job. Yeah. I would say don't do print on demand if you need money right now. But I like the angle of, this is definitely a great creative outlet. If you're that kind of person who likes to be creative, come up with ideas, design stuff, it's an amazing opportunity, really.
Yeah.
So you got started back in 2013. So you're one of the OGs, really, the early days of print on demand. Tell me a bit more about that. What happened after you started on Redbubble, got your first sale? How did you kind of move on from there?
So it was around 2013. We just got married. I had a blog which I sold, which was making me a little bit of money, but not loads. and realized after I'd sold it that, oh no, the money I was making from it, obviously I'm not getting that money every month anymore because I sold the thing. So I was just kind of looking around for ways to make some money, and I was working for an SEO company at the time, so I was creating little websites and trying different things. And then I stumbled into shirt a day sites like T Fury, and there was like several others at the time, like Shirt Punch and Ripped. I don't even know how many of these guys are still live today, but there's a few of them are still around. But I think I started following like these artists on Facebook, and they were, they just like have these shirt designs that they'd sell for 24 hours and then they'd get taken down. And a lot of them were really like, playing off of Star Wars or playing off of Doctor Who or whatever, and they were just kind of jokes and mashups and slightly IP infringing type things, but they're all original artwork, and a lot of the designers are really incredible, artists and illustrators. And I just thought, oh, I can maybe do something like that. I have an art and design background, so I thought I'll just kind of use it as an excuse to teach myself how to use Adobe Illustrator and learn how to do kind of vector artwork. Yeah, after kind of immersing myself in the space for a while, I had a few ideas, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to submit these ideas. They had a kind of little submit your design here. If it gets accepted, you get 10% of the sales. We blast it out to, our thousands of followers and email subscribers. And one of my designs from that initial bunch, I had like 3 or 4, and one of them got accepted. And I was like, oh, crazy. Okay, great. And, stayed up late, like, watching the numbers and stuff like that. And it made like a few $100s overnight. And I was like, wow, okay, this could work, especially if I could do, I was trying to work it out in my head, like how many would I need to get selected every week and all this kind of stuff. And then around the same time, stumbled into like Redbubble and Society6. TeePublic was just launching as they were doing a kind of campaign style site at the time where you had to sell over a certain amount and then they would print it, but they then switched to just a kind of standard model. So all this stuff was happening, and I uploaded some of those designs to Redbubble and made a sale within, I think, 3 weeks or 4 weeks, something like that. And it was just a little email that said, hey, you've made a sale, you made £2.50 or something like that. And I was like, okay, we make one sale from 3 designs. How many designs do I need to make, this much? How many do I need to quit my job, and started just kind of churning stuff out. And it was a very long slog. I was doing this 2 years before Merch by Amazon came along. But it was a labor of love, and it was like I was creating stuff that I was interested in. I was creating things for films that I liked, for, memes and niches and online communities that I was interested in. It was kind of early days of like Dogecoin and things like that, early crypto stuff. So I was doing some stuff around that. So there was all these different things I was dabbling in and creating designs around. And yeah, it was just a kind of education in trend riding. And then, some designs that just kind of started to sell, day in, day out. And then when Amazon came along, it was just like, okay, I could immediately see the opportunity here. I was like, okay, let's take these 300 designs or whatever that I had at the time. Let's just upload those. And that basically like doubled what I was making within a month. And then it just kind of ballooned from there. So it was, it was like I had this great portfolio of stuff. I never would have thought when I started that I'd have like 300 designs. That would have been crazy. I was like, oh, maybe 20, 30 designs would be enough. And now obviously it's like, oh, you need about 300,000 designs or something. But yeah, that's kind of how I started and how Merch by Amazon became such a big thing. And the business has just kind of grown from there. And we've gone into like art licensing deals. And obviously I've written books and done courses and now software as well. So yeah, it's been an interesting 10 years or more.
I'm pretty interested in the licensing side of things because you're one of the only people I've ever heard talk about this. And as far as I understand it, you have designs of yourself that are in stores in the UK. So for the Americans watching, it'd be like seeing you design in a Target on a shirt or a greeting card in your case. So talk to me about how that came about. Can you average Joe Schmo do that as well? Like, could I do that if I wanted to in the UK?
So yeah, it was around 2018. So Merch had been going for a couple of years. It was doing really well. We'd continue. We probably had like a few thousand designs by that point. So a few thousand unique designs covering all kinds of different markets and niches and things. And I was just thinking, well, how can we squeeze more juice out of these designs? Because we've got them everywhere online. And I don't know how I first kind of stumbled across it, but there's an art licensing. There's a not an art licensing. There's something called a licensing expo that happens in London every year, and it's just a like a fair thing, and it's free to just go and attend. So I went, I think in 2017, and just kind of walked around the show and tried to figure out what's going on. And obviously, you got like Warner Brothers there, and Universal Studios, and Nickelodeon, and it's where they all do their licensing deals with manufacturers and stores. So they're, Nickelodeon's talking to Tesco and Sainsbury's, or they're talking to a company that makes, I don't know, water bottles or something, and doing their deals for, can we license SpongeBob and make SpongeBob water bottles? And they're like, yeah, of course, it costs this much for the license, and then this much of the royalties is what you pay, and blah blah blah. So I'm figuring all this out, and then like in the corner of the show there's like 10 like artists, like independent artists, who've got the smallest little booths there, and they're just they've got like a little catalog, or they've got some some of their artwork behind them and stuff. So I was just talking to them and trying to figure out how this all worked. And then the next year we went and had a booth. We rented out one of the spaces and had a little space there in the artist section. And honestly, like 2 or 3 days, I think it was, and we probably didn't talk to more than like 25 people over that whole time. Okay. But 3 of the people we ended up doing like deals with, and they were deals that lasted for, one of them we're still working with today. And yeah, they were like, one of them was an art licensing agent who was like, I like your stuff. He was American. He was like, I like your stuff. We license this artist, and this artist, and we sell them in Target and Spencer's and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, I think your stuff will work really well there. Let's see what we can do. So yeah, we have an art licensing agent, and then we've just had similar conversations and people reach out. We've got a greetings card company, printer here in the UK, who reached out last year and said, we like this collection of your designs that they found on, I think they found those on Etsy actually. So they reached out via our Etsy store and said, we'd like to license these. So it's been organic, and it's very slow. I think if you're coming from the print on demand space, you need to be prepared for like, okay, this is a lot of kind of back and forth on contracts, and not necessarily negotiations, because there's a pretty standard rate of royalties and things like that. But it's more just that from signing a deal to getting any money in your pocket, you're looking at least 6 months, probably more like 12 months. And these deals can last for a long time. Like we've had deals with Spencer's and stuff that have gone on for years and years and years. But it's certainly not a quick way to make money. It's very much you're going to be entering into some relationship with someone that hopefully you're going to be working with for a while. And you need to have a level of quality in your designs, and you need to have, obviously they're not licensing just one design. They like to license a collection of designs that really represent like a mini brand or a collection, as I like to think of them. So you have to have consistency in that. And obviously it has to be of a level of quality that's going to look nice, on the shelf next to these other artists. But if you're interested in it, one thing I would recommend is just when you're in a Sainsbury's or whatever, just go and pick up the back of a greetings card that you like. Just look at the name of the company, who's it printed by. It will usually say who's licensed the artwork. It will obviously say who the artist is or whatever. So usually I'd like to go, and I did that for a while, just go and Google these companies. Are they accepting submissions? Are they actively searching people out? Can I email them and say, hey, we've got this collection of artwork which I think works really well, and I think you might like it for your brands or whatever. So it's that kind of approach. So it's very much offline, and it's very much I don't want to say like vibe based, but it's very like aesthetic based, and there's no like data that comes into it. It's very much like you're talking to a buyer who works for Sainsbury's or Walmart or whatever, and they're just going off, I like this, I like this style. I think this is funny. That they don't have any data. It's not like you can say, well, I mean, you could have some data. You can say, oh, this design sells pretty well on Etsy or whatever. But they don't really base it on that. They're just basing it on, we like your style, we like this, we'd like this for, next winter season or whatever. So the lead times on the stuff is quite long.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how I'd sum it up. It's not something that you want to kind of, or if you're going to do it, it's something you want to kind of bolt onto your business. That's going to be a nice kind of steady bit of income for the long term. It's not going to be a quick way to make any quick cash. So kind of the opposite of like trends and stuff on print on demand.
It sounds a little bit like high effort, but potentially high reward, because you're talking about supermarkets there, like Marks and Spencer, Sainsbury's. These are huge in the UK. Like you find them everywhere. And I imagine every time someone buys one of your designs, you get a royalty similar to how it would be in a marketplace, right? That's the idea.
Yeah.
So you could probably generate a lot of volume if you have a popular greeting card in one of those stores.
Yeah, exactly. If you're willing to kind of go all in on it, I had a guy in my group and community who was very much focused on greetings cards, and he was interested in print on demand. But I think for him, the greetings card thing just in the end became more lucrative. And I see his cards now almost every place I go. I can, notice his style everywhere. So yeah, it depends on what kind of business you're looking to build. I think it is, if you look at like the numbers, the raw numbers, sometimes you think, well, how much are you making on a greetings card versus a T-shirt? That's not a great, But of course, you got to remember, well, how many greetings cards are you selling? Thousands a day across all the supermarkets, those kind of things. So, yeah, it's definitely something out there for the right kind of person. But it is a longer term play, and it can be, like you say, very steady. As in, what I like about it is you don't have that competition. Of course, there's no copycat who's coming in because it's high effort to make the personal contact, go through the negotiations. This is not something you can just do online. It's much more kind of hands-on. So yeah, there's no one coming in and going, oh, I saw that design on a greetings card, I'm going to copy it and then submit it to the printer, and they're gonna go for mine because I'm going to take less of a royalty. There's none of that stuff. So yeah, that's what I like about it. It's and obviously, like, if you've got, like, the reason it makes sense for me is we've got these kind of mini collections, and we're like, oh yeah, we got this collection which we license there, and then this collection which works really well as a calendar and that kind of thing. So it's a way to squeeze the juice and get more from those designs, and also just like, yeah, we sell these designs on Amazon, but maybe they don't do as well as on Amazon. So, we've got this other kind of outlet where we can try and see if they'll do better elsewhere.
Really interesting. It's definitely high barrier to entry, which provides opportunity for people who are willing to kind of go that route.
Exactly.
And the greeting cards, just for any Americans watching, it's probably going to be more popular here, right? Because greeting cards are such a big thing in the UK. I'm guessing if you wanted to try it in the US, T-shirts might be something that's...
I think greetings cards are pretty big in the US as well. We've done things like wall calendars in the US that have done pretty well. We license posters in, I think, like Spencer's and a few places like that. So yeah, I mean, if you can get someone who kind of knows the space, which is kind of what you want to do, you want to, like I say, pick up a product, find out who's the company behind it, who's licensing it. And if it's in your kind of market and your area, then that would be the kind of way to go about it. Or there's a she's not really a YouTuber, kind of. I have interviewed a lady called Stacey Bloomfield who has a course on this, which I recommend. And she does mainly like floral patterns and stuff like that, and licenses that kind of stuff for fabrics and curtains and things. So she's got a great big course that you can take, and we'll walk you through, how to frame your portfolio, how to reach out to people, all that kind of stuff, which is much more kind of at the American side of things.
Okay.
But yeah, I've got an interview with her on my YouTube channel if anyone wants to check that out.
Sweet. Yeah, the YouTube channel will definitely be linked down below, so check out that interview. It sounds interesting. One thing you talk quite a lot about on your channel, I've noticed, is ideas. rather than just creating designs randomly. So why are the ideas so important?
Yeah, I see it as like initially, ideas was the thing that motivated me. I was like, oh, I've got this funny idea. Like I was, on these T Fury sites and stuff. And like, oh, they're doing designs about Jurassic Park. Well, I've got an idea for a funny Jurassic Park T-shirt because I like Jurassic Park and I find this funny. And no one's done this yet, where they take this character and do this with it and blah blah blah. Here's a funny concept. So that's kind of how I started, and so it's very organic for me that ideas come first, kind of before everything. I didn't set out thinking I'm going to do some dinosaur T-shirts, or I'm going to do some paddleboard T-shirts, or I'm going to do some, outdoor T-shirts. It was very much, oh, that's a funny idea, like that's a funny joke, that's a funny play on words, that's a funny concept that I've stumbled across somewhere, has popped into my head, and yeah, it's only like later now that I realize actually a lot of people don't think like that. A lot of people come into this a different way. They think in terms of niches or markets, or they go the trend route, or they just look at what's selling and copy that. So it's almost like a different strategy, if you like, than these other ways of making sales. And I've done a bit of all the strategies. I've done generic stuff, especially in the early days of merch when there was, basically no competition. You could just throw up some happy birthday shirts or birthday boy shirts, and guess what? You'd start making sales. So I've done the super generic things. But yeah, what really has worked for me is that original idea stuff. Every concept is unique and different, and putting the idea first ahead of thinking, niche first or market first or whatever. So yeah, that's what I started with. That's what's been most rewarding for me and what I think I'm best at. You have an original idea, you have to kind of get it out there. You feel like, this is funny. I hope other people will find it funny. I don't know if they're going to find it funny. I've not seen this idea anywhere else. I can't find it. I'm going to create it. And then if you do enough of those and you do it right, and you're right about them being genuinely good ideas, then over time you build up this pretty resilient portfolio that just continues to earn money. And part of that is because there's like genuine quality ideas underneath that. It's not just that you got lucky, that you picked the right market. It's that you actually had a funny idea. And some of those become their own little mini niches, if you like. Like an idea can actually be something that people go and search for, like a meme that goes viral or a joke that goes viral. People actually go on Amazon and now search for, this joke that I created, or this one line, this phrase that I created. So if you can do that, and obviously you can't do that every time, that's not something that is possible, but if you can do enough of that kind of stuff, you start to get some kind of regular, sales from that. And also one or two can just pop off and go crazy and become their own little micro niches that just keep selling. And of course people come in and copy you, but you were the first one there. You sit at the top of the snowball as it builds. And yeah, that's how I think about ideas. It's like they're these the core value things that you can do. And if you do enough of them over time, then you just keep kind of building up this portfolio that hopefully just keeps earning. And it's like an incredible business model. If someone told me 10 years ago, oh, just have good ideas, turn them into nice looking designs, and then just do a lot of them, and you'll be set. I'd be like, no, it can't be that straightforward. Don't have to run ads and don't have to do this. And they're like, no, there's going to be Amazon, there's going to be Etsy, there's going to be Redbubble. I don't know, there could be another couple of channels in a few years' time that pop up. There'll always be people looking for, funny original designs. There'll always be a new trend. So yeah, just do that and keep doing it, and you'll make sales. It's like, okay, sounds too good to be true, but actually seems to work. So
I love that message, because it is definitely something I've noticed as well over the years. It's like good original ideas is what's going to turn into like a best-selling or regularly selling design for you the most. it can be hit and miss. Like you'll come up with some stuff that nobody else finds funny. It's just part of the process. But if you have a few of those hit, it can turn into like really strong sellers, because you kind of the first with the idea. You can then kind of create similar versions of that idea, and really kind of find your own space. And I think what you described there of like people searching in your original idea into Amazon, Etsy, etc. That's kind of the dream of every print-on-demand seller. Definitely.
Just to come in there, like on the back of what you said, I created something like just before we had our fourth child recently. I was like, I want to get back into like regular output of designs, because I've been out of that for so long. And so I managed to kind of get like 30 designs out over a couple of weeks, and a few of them were like around this, what I thought was a hot trend. I was like, oh, these are good. These are going to start selling straight away. And then the rest, just all unique, very different ideas around different things. No coherent thread through any of it. It's just like, I think this is funny. I think this is funny. I'm just going to get them out there. The ones that I thought were going to start selling straight away, crickets, nothing. And I was like, damn it, just wrong.
Classic.
Played that one wrong. And there was one that just completely random design, which if you would have like put a gun to my head, I would never have said that one's going to start selling regularly. It's not blown up. It's just kind of a slow, steady seller. And I would never have picked that one. That was, of all of them, I think I would have said that one was kind of the most out there, a bit weird, not something that I think is ever likely to really pick up traction, but I just thought it was funny, so I just wanted to get it out there. So that one started selling regularly. And then what's happened like in the past few weeks is that trend, which I thought was going to be great, I don't know, back in June or July or something, has suddenly blown up, and like 3 of these designs are now selling like multiple times a day. And it just goes to show you, you can't predict things, but there was something there in those designs. I was right. I was just wrong on the timing, if you like. But I can still point on those designs and say, well, yeah, I mean, they are good. Like there is a good idea there. I was just wrong about the timing. So much of it is, if you've got that good idea, you don't have to be great at your timing. You can be, ahead of the pack, or spotting something that's going to come down the lines a year from now, or even recur again, several years from now or something like that. So yeah, it's a weird thing, but if you've got that idea in the first place, I think that's the key.
It comes back to patience as well, right? This is kind of core part of print-on-demand, is sometimes you have good ideas, but it just takes time, even to get the first sale. For me, it often happens in November and December, where we are now. It's like the ideas that you had early in the year, which never sold, they might get picked up right now, and only now kind of start getting some traction. I think the ideas is definitely something that people struggle with, though. Like you already mentioned there, that's what you're good at, but you realize not everyone thinks like that. Yeah. So do you have any advice for people on how to kind of come up with better ideas?
Yeah, I think, I've written books about this, many words on the topic, and have a course that walks through the whole thing. But yeah, the kind of, in a nutshell, I would say, especially if we're talking like T-shirts and print on demand, don't reinvent the wheel, right? This is a well-worn, well-trodden path. There's there's obviously millions, maybe even billions of different T-shirt designs out there. But if you look at what's selling any given day, you can usually categorize it into some category and say, okay, that's a pun, that's a one-liner, that's a play on words on this, or that's a parody, that's playing on this particular thing, or like, oh, it's Halloween, so lots of costume T-shirt things. That's going to be a framework that comes up every single year. Is there a trend right now, or a person that's hot, and we can do a costume of them for Halloween as a T-shirt? Super repeatable, adaptable frameworks like that. And obviously there's things like that, and then all the way through to like individual sayings and phrases, and you had me at X, or please be patient, I'm X, or these little adaptable phrases. And if you just plug into those, if you just like use what's there, that can really do like 80% of the work for you. So it's not about sitting down at a blank piece of paper and thinking, how do I come up with a really good idea, or I need an idea, think really hard. You can't think your way into a great idea. You have to have some material that you're looking at, and it's really more about noticing, stumbling upon, or just like pattern matching, where you go, oh yeah, that will fit with that really well. That's a good concept. So I think it is that kind of taste thing. It's almost like you can't really teach someone how to come up with something funny. What you might be able to do is say, like, here's a load of stuff that's potentially good. You pick out, what's funny there, or what's going to sell out of here, or is there a concept there that jumps out to you and you're like, oh yeah, I can definitely turn that phrase into a good design. So yeah, I think if you can get that kind of main thing first, like, yeah, you're not going to think your way to a great idea, but if you can look at enough material, if you can kind of immerse yourself in enough of the right spaces so that these, little sparks start flying, which is why I created the software that I've got, Ideally, which is really just about, let's show you a lot of potential stuff. Let's give you, allow you to like scroll. Like I used to just, with Photoshop, just like scroll through the fonts and see what font, you think looks good. You've got the phrase. You just try on the different fonts for each one. It's kind of that concept. Like you don't know until you see it. And if you can see lots of ideas in front of you and you can scroll through them, and then you can go, oh gosh, that phrase works because of this. Or, you just spit out your coffee because that pun just makes sense. That's really the easy way of going about it. And actually, I don't even know another way to do it consistently, which is the thing. It's like, yeah, obviously there's people who've been coming up with great ideas way before AI or computers or anything like that. But at what scale did they were they able to do it? Like, if you want to create the amount of designs you need to make a consistent income from something like Amazon merch or Etsy organically, then you need an awful lot of ideas, an awful lot of good ideas. And to get those good ideas, you need an even bigger amount of potential ideas that you're looking at. So the scale thing is interesting. You need this incredible scale to actually find the good ideas in the first place. Otherwise, yeah, you can come up with some good ideas, and those will happen, but you probably can't come up with enough of them consistently to like sustain a growing business, if you like.
Okay, and that's where Ideally kind of provides.
Yeah, that's the idea with Ideally, is like you're looking at literally thousands of phrases, with your little word input into it. So that's how it started anyway. We've got various tools in it, but one of the main ones is this plugin phrase generator, where you put in a word, puts that word into all these phrases, and then you're scrolling through like 1,500 phrases and just picking out the ones that work. And that's how, I've come up with some of my best sellers is, oh yeah, put that word in that phrase. That's really funny. That's a great concept for a design. It's not been done before. Other people obviously agree. They stumble across it. They buy it. It becomes a thing. Yeah, do that enough times and you're away. And yeah, something like that. This is why I think, I know we're going to maybe talk about AI, but this is why I think AI doesn't do a great job. Even if you do, you can ask it like, hey, give me 1,500 funny phrases that include the word X. And yeah, it will technically give you 1,000 phrases or whatever, but they're not funny because it doesn't really know what funny is, or it's just amalgamating the data it's got. Whereas with Ideally, what we do is we don't use AI for this part of it. We just like pop the word in, and it's just, and so sometimes that yields results that make no sense and are useless. But then other times it's like, oh, I would never have thought of that. I never would have put that word in that phrase, and this phrase that has these connotations meeting this topic, creates this incredible idea that I would never have come up with before. And yeah, AI is never going to give you that, because AI is always thinking, oh, what's the natural word to finish this phrase off or whatever. Even if you say, oh, give me a funny phrase, it's still like, is this funny? It's still kind of trying to make things make sense. instead of the kind of contrast and conflict which is behind a lot of humor, really. So, yeah.
I was going to ask you that as well, actually, because that's the thing with AI that I've found as well, is it's really hard to put your finger on it or how to describe it, but the sentences that come out of it, let's say you get 20 ideas, maybe there'll be like one or two in there that have potential, but a lot of them, they might appear okay on the surface, but anyone who has been doing print-on-demand for a while knows, okay, these will probably not sell.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not, it's not a phrase that you see on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing ideally it doesn't just use AI to generate, you actually have developed it in a way where it does give you sentences that actually
we've got this database that I've been building up for years of, like, I've literally, when I see like a funny phrase that I think can be adapted, I make a note of it, and then it goes into the database, and then we like categorize it and stuff like that, and say, we base it on alliteration is one of the things we rank things on, and like we can break the words down into, what words fit in well here. Should it be a verb? Should it be an adjective? And all these kind of things. So yeah, the AI doesn't come into that. It's very much more of a mechanical way that we do it. And then, like I say, that gives you a lot of results, most of which will be useless anyway, which, fine, we know that. But there's going to be some ones in there that, yeah, you could prompt an AI till you're blue in the face and you'll never stumble across, that particular joke or that particular angle, or just throwing those things together. And and I actually don't think, I've experimented a bit with like trying to train AI models and stuff like that, but it really is kind of baked into the architecture of how they work. Like, yes, you can kind of get it to explain a joke or even kind of come up with a joke, but what it understands as joke and what it understands as humor is very much not the same thing as what, like you say, like what actually sells. And I think a lot of people will be churning out a lot of stuff because of AI that they are told, or they think, hey, this is a funny Christmas t-shirt and this is a funny Christmas pun. And they're going to find that actually, no, the market doesn't agree, and the market wants, something quite different from what the internet circa 2010, the kind of jokes that turned up on, these are funny jokes for Christmas, on a listicle on BuzzFeed or something like that, which is what the LLMs are trained on, versus something that's going to be on trend, that's happening now, or that, like, I'm constantly adding phrases and, little slang terms or memes or things that are happening currently. So you have this opportunity to mash up your topic with, that phrase that everyone's talking about that happened last week, that's a crazy good idea. But that's very hard to get an AI to ever, stumble across something like that. So yeah, that's, there's obviously a lot more we could talk about with AI, but I do think that's kind of baked into the fundamentals of how they work. And I don't think it's something that's easily solved just within the prompting or anything like that.
Would you say AI is a threat to print-on-demand sellers in any way?
I think, it's definitely proved itself a threat if you're doing generic stuff and very kind of middle of the road, mainstreamy, birthday boy, whatever, that kind of stuff that anyone can kind of think up and recognize, or you're looking at what's selling and just kind of copying stuff like that. Especially, so if you're making the most of your sales from generic markets or generic concepts, and you maintain that by producing more generic stuff, then you're in danger, because I say you're in danger, but you've probably already switched to using AI to churn stuff out anyway in that case. But obviously, if you were slow to do that, then probably AI has come in and drunk quite a lot of your milkshake by now. But I think over the longer term, there's a chance that the market probably becomes a bit more discerning and doesn't actually quite like that AI, that obvious AI look that obviously people like you and me can recognize. But I think even if the market, even if your average buyer doesn't recognize it as AI, they still can develop this kind of, that looks a bit generic, or it looks a bit cartoony, or whatever it is, that will kind of put them off the kind of AI slop stuff. So I think, it's kind of swings and roundabouts, and obviously there's the threat of there's a lot more output, there's a lot more competition maybe, and it's quicker for copycats to copy. Not that it was ever that difficult for copycats to copy before AI anyway. But yeah, it's obviously a copycat can now churn out, 30 copies of your design without hiring an illustrator. They're not going to be pixel for pixel copies again. So yes, that's a bit messier than it was, but copycats have been around for ages anyway. It's not that much of a difference. So yeah, it's an opportunity and a threat at the same time, I think.
If you had to start from scratch today, what would you do? I'm guessing you probably wouldn't start on Redbubble anymore, or?
Gosh, that's a good question. I think I would. So the thing with starting from scratch is things are constantly moving, right? So obviously, what's working for me today and what's selling for me today is selling because it's been there. I've got that design on Redbubble that's been there since 2017, that sells every day as a sticker, as a T-shirt. That's very different from starting today when you've not got that, hindsight or whatever to know that that's going to be the case. So, yeah, I would say if I was starting today, I'd probably. It is about finding what works for you, and what I would say is you've got to actually get a sale. Like you've got to actually prove the concept, and that probably means you do want to put something up everywhere or try obviously if you've got a Merch by Amazon account, that would be the greatest first place you would try. But then of course there's Etsy. There's you might want to try selling on Amazon, as a seller on like the Seller Central route rather than just the Amazon route. You might want to try the Shopify and ads route and see if you can make that work for you. So it's really about what have you got in your pocket? Have you got some money you can invest? If you've got no cash and it's all just time, then yeah, I would list on Redbubble. I'd list on TeePublic. TeePublic has been growing pretty steadily for me. It's doing well. I think it's probably going to overtake Redbubble if it hasn't already. So yeah, these sites still work. They're still selling, maybe not as much as they were 2021, but they are still opportunities. And the other thing is, even if you had if you got 1% of the sales or 0.5% of the sales that are happening on TeePublic every day, you'd be laughing. You'd be away. Like these are still very big marketplaces where lots of sales are made. So I wouldn't discount them just because, you're comparing TeePublic to Amazon, or, obviously anything compared to Amazon is going to look pretty piddly. But if you had, your own Etsy store, you can definitely get an Etsy store to a place where it's making enough sales for you to be very happy and live very comfortably. And you'd never need to go near Amazon. So, or like the guy I mentioned who's just licensing greetings cards through, supermarkets and stuff. It's about finding what works for you, and that really depends on, what you're creating, what style you're creating in, what the ideal kind of market or place to sell that would be. Those would be the places to start. So yeah, it is very hard to say this is what I would do. I would personally probably do quite a lot of what I'm already doing, and probably sell on the same places. But yeah, as long as you've got that opportunity to upload something for free and it's it's all organic based, that's still kind of the main bulk of my business. I've never really gone heavy into the ads thing or that kind of route. But I do think that is a great way, especially because obviously you actually get data straight away with that. Like you put your money down, you spend on ads, you drive eyeballs, and then you can see, which designs work, which don't, which get clicks, which don't. Obviously, you just need a bit of cash to invest in the first place. But yeah, there's loads of different ways to do it. It's just finding what works for you.
That's a good message, because for me, or I also know people that are doing really well on Displayed, for example, which is a marketplace that hardly anyone knows about, or that doesn't really get mentioned much compared to Etsy, Amazon, Shopify. Yeah. I personally have made quite a lot of sales on Tostadora, another marketplace that I think even less people know. And I've also heard from people they've tried those, but it didn't work. And it can be hit and miss. Like you have to figure out what works for you. Some people do extremely well on KDP, right? That's another option.
Yeah.
For those that can't get accepted into Amazon merch, maybe try KDP, because you can actually start listing on there without having to apply, and you are on Amazon, right? What if someone's already been doing print on demand for, say, 2 years, and they're just not seeing the results that they want? Like they imagine this, I'll be making thousands of dollars a month, but they're still struggling to, get even consistent daily sales. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, I think that the hard truth, which no one wants to hear, but 2 years is a long time to do something that isn't working. And like I said, I obviously started very small. It was, one Redbubble sale, and it was a very slow kind of progress. But I mean, even before Amazon came along, we were doing 2K, 3K months between Redbubble and TeePublic and a small Etsy store. So that took like 2 years of building it up, I would say. By the second year, so maybe what's that, 13, 14 months in, we started to do consistently over 1,000, and then we were doing 2,000, 3,000 before the end of 2015. So yeah, if you've been doing it for 2 years and you're still not making anything like that, then something's wrong somewhere. Because I think, assuming that you've been creating stuff all through that time, you're consistently creating new things and putting stuff out there, and you're not completely dumb. You're like looking at what's selling, what isn't. You've got some data to base it on. Something's going really wrong there, and maybe it's just, hate to say, maybe it's not for you. Maybe you'd be better off, either trying a different channel, trying a different approach or something. But yeah, I think in a case like that, if someone's been doing something for 2 years, if they show me their designs, I can almost immediately say, okay, yeah, this is why. And often the biggest thing I come across with people who I do design critiques for and stuff is it's just generic. It's just super, super mainstreamy, someone who's not got any experience in like creating something that connects with another human, that, raises the emotions, or, is something that someone's actually energized about. It's just like Happy Halloween or Merry Christmas, or, maybe not as bad as that, but like really quite low grade concepts, which is why the ideas are so important, why I keep coming back to that. Generic ideas, doesn't matter really. You could be a really nice illustrator, a really great, talented artist, but if you create a really nice design that says Happy Christmas, it's still not going to really move the needle. So, you might be better off trying something else. It's probably not the smartest thing to say for someone who sells software and books and courses for POD creators, but, the majority of people who have tried this don't make, 6 figures a year or anything close to it. So it is one of those things that I just, like, I did an interview recently with the podcast Millionaire University, and they reached out and just said, can we interview you? And I was like, yeah, of course. And the video was on YouTube, and I was just like reading the comments, and there's like a lot of nasty comment, not super nasty, but just like people saying, stop telling people that you can get rich selling t-shirts and stuff like that. And I was just thinking, well, I didn't say like you would get rich selling t-shirts. Like, someone asked me to do an interview. They asked me about my experience and my business, and I've answered their questions. Like, nowhere did I ever say, hey, if you do this, you'll make thousands a month. Like, I don't know you. I'm just telling you what works for me. I didn't say it was easy. In fact, I said it took me 2 years before I started making more than $1,000 a month. You might be better off, plumbing, making YouTube videos, day trading, whatever it might be. So, I would just come back to that. Like, prove it first. Like, if you've got some stuff out there, if you can at least prove you've got like eyeballs on something, which is where Amazon's not great for this, because obviously you don't know if people have actually even seen your designs on Amazon. You can put stuff out there and you just don't have any data. Redbubble's a bit better for that. Etsy as well. Like, you actually can see stats and stuff like that. But yeah, if you've got stuff on those platforms and they're not even getting eyeballs, then obviously, you're picking really bad I don't know, keywords, or your designs are just not connecting or whatever. And then if you're getting eyeballs but not making sales, then obviously that's where the issue is. But yeah, something's gone wrong somewhere. Like you shouldn't, and I wouldn't like it if I'd started listing stuff on Redbubble and it had been 3 months and I hadn't made a sale, I probably wouldn't be talking to you today. Like I would not have carried on doing it. I would have said, this isn't for me, this isn't working, I'm going to go and try something else. So yeah, I don't want to discourage people too heavily, but I do think, get some data, make your decisions on the data, and adjust accordingly, of course. Like, not saying the first design you create is going to sell, but if you create 10, 20 designs, something should move the needle somewhere. Like, and if it doesn't, then you should adjust pretty quickly. And, within your next 10 or 20, you want to see some progress. Otherwise, you probably should just hang it up and try something else.
But I like the point you made that it's good to get a second opinion, right? I think it's tough at the beginning to know, what am I doing wrong? What should I change? And if you've already been doing it for a long time and you're not really seeing results, you don't have much to lose, really. So whether it is in a public community asking someone or DMing someone or joining one of the communities out there, lots of YouTubers have coaching, like one-on-one coaching calls. Just speak to someone who's been doing it for a bit longer, who has some success, because they'll definitely see things that you don't. Whether it is about your design or your listing, they'll probably notice something.
Yeah, that's true. Or like social media as well in general. Like I was very active on Reddit in the early days and Instagram and Twitter. Like if you're on there just like genuinely interested in, I don't know, different topics, then, if you're genuinely into drones or crypto or whatever, then what makes a funny meme, what's a funny joke, what works in that community. And if you can create a design for them and just show it to them, then, that's how I made a lot of early sales as well, was just like, hey, I've made this funny Jurassic Park design. What do you guys think? And it'd be like, I want it. Where can I buy it? Blah, blah, blah. You can't really do that on Reddit these days anymore. But that principle of like, just genuinely being interested in something first, and then, it's basically second nature of, of course that would be a funny design. Of course that idea would work for those people. And then all you have to do is get it out there and use the right keywords and find the right channel to actually get it to its destination, which is a lot easier than trying to do it the other way around and think, what market should I go for? Completely without context or anything. Whereas if you're in a community that's like, super excited about this, that, or the other, then it's a lot easier to put two and two together there.
And I think with that approach, it's also important to like share, not sell, or like ask for opinions, not sell. Because some people might hear this and get it wrong and say, oh, well, I'll join this community online and then I'll share my Amazon link and say, here, I made this t-shirt. I think it's better to ask people for opinions, and then they will naturally come to you if they want to buy it. That's going to be a lot more effective, I think. If people want to learn more from you, where should they go?
Yeah, michaelessek.com or ideally.app. That's with one L, IDEALY.app is my software. But yeah, I've got courses, I've got books, and I've got software, and you can check them all out there. And obviously follow me on all the usuals. I'm Michael Essek on all the places.
You're quite active on Facebook?
And not so much these. I've not been active anywhere because of the kids. But I'm going to try to get back into. I think I'm going to actually start live streaming weekly again on YouTube, probably, because that was one of the things that I found really helpful a couple of years ago. That got me thinking about how to explain things and how to come up with ideas, and all that stuff was actually formed a lot through live questions and answers and stuff. So probably YouTube is probably going to become a bit more active. But actually, my email newsletter, which I send out weekly, is one of the best places to keep up with what I'm doing and what I'm talking about and sharing about. And I usually do like a Friday roundup of print-on-demand-y news, so what's going on, what's new, things like that. So sign up for that as well. That's free. I'll
leave the links to all of that in the description to save people the struggle of not being able to spell it. Thanks a ton for your time. Appreciate you.
No problem.
Really interesting conversation. And
it's fun.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks, Philip.